Welcome back to the Draft FC podcast, coming at you again with another video episode, joined by Draft FC Kiran. It's been a little while since we did our first one. It might have even been a couple of months ago now, but Christmas is here. We're recording this on Saturday, the 23rd of December. United and West Ham have just played out their early fixture, and the 3 o'clock fixtures will be kicking off very soon. So there's lots to get into. We've obviously got January transfer window coming up. There are managerial changes happening, lots and lots of fixtures. We have, I think it's fair to say, no plan of attack for today's episode, so we're just going to talk and see where it takes us and go from there. But yeah, how are you doing, Kieran, anyway?
I'm good. Looking forward to the Christmas break. And yeah, good to be back, as usual. And yeah, let's get into it. It's everyone's going to be looking for a few minutes to do their waivers on Christmas morning. Get this podcast on at some point during the Christmas break as well.
Yeah, so I've also got to, I will be getting out the game week 19 preview. Probably tonight I'll record that, ready for Christmas. Yeah, and that marks obviously the halfway point. Pretty much, barring a couple of extra fixtures. We're not exactly at 50%, but obviously halfway through the game week. So definitely enough time now through 17 and a bit game weeks to suss out the lie of the land. The first thing we did want to touch on was the recent managerial change at Nottingham Forest. Cooper sacked and Nuno brought in. I've got some opinions on Nuno, maybe not quite as negative as you think, but I'll let you lead off on that one. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Once you read about it, Steve Cooper basically not liked that much by the club hierarchy for a while, so much so that in some of the sort of articles that have come out, some of the clubs like Leeds, who got relegated, Palace were sniffing around, because even though Forest stayed in the Prem, they thought that they thought the relationship was sour enough that they could go for it. And I wonder if Palace might still, given that he's now available. But yeah, it felt like, reading all that, it was only a matter of time. And even though everyone who likes Nottingham Forest has been saying they love Steve Cooper, they want him to stay, all that sort of stuff. So I understand why they've gone for that decision. The Nuno thing's really interesting because it's not necessarily like he's smashed it since his Wolves days. I think he had a tough ending at Wolves. He then went to Spurs, had a okay start, won manager of the month. And then it was just the wrong. It was the wrong appointment. He was like the 4th, 5th choice sort of thing, and it was never really going to work out for him there. It was just the wrong. Like, he was managing a Saudi last I heard, and even then, I don't think it went.
Did he win the league over there?
I don't know. You'll know more about that. So I just don't.
I'm not even bothered enough to Google it.
It's a strange appointment, and I don't know what would be the right appointment for Forest. Like, who would this owner like? But I mean, if you go back a few years, the Wolves team that he had was. Some I remember at the time were saying things like, "This is the best promoted team to ever have come up." They were so enthralled by the way he was playing. They were playing football, the control. So it was really exciting in those early days, but he's not really been able to reach that for a good few years now. So yeah, at that point, I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brennan Johnson was a big miss for Forest. I know he's not kind of, lit it up for Spurs yet, but the way they were set up and I mean, he was basically their talisman figure as well, which is amazing considering how young he still is. But I think he was a big miss. The squad, I mean, obviously trying to hark it back to draft, the squad is enormous. Now, I know one of the things Nuno is kind of always thrown at is he likes a small squad, which is fair. And I think if you're a team like Forest, where your aspiration is basically trying to break into the top half of the league, you can afford to have quite a small squad, and rotate and not really take the cups too seriously. I think they must have the most number of players on the list in terms of the FPL site that you can actually choose from.
Or Chelsea.
So, yeah, maybe I think Forest might take the biscuit on that one though. They've got so many on there, but because of that, there's so much flexibility in that squad because they have so many central defenders. They've got so many wing backs, so many midfielders. You could argue maybe not quite as many class attackers as you might want, but within that, you could throw any system down on paper and you've got virtually 2 Premier League-ish quality 11s you could throw at it and it would sort of work. I think they sort of lost a bit of an identity this season. And it's kind of a shame the way he's gone out, because that game against Spurs was like a pound shop dice performance, which it's a bit unfair that he's now going to that's going to be his final game for them, because I think being pragmatic, that game could have easily swung the other way. They basically just said, look, Spurs are tiny and they're not going to dominate us. So we're just going to lob the ball into the box at every opportunity, just smash them and physically try and be too overbearing for him, which on another night could have worked and he could still be in the job now. And they're coming off the back of a decent performance. So I think, you could argue that pragmatism is a style in itself. Just go and speak to Jose. But yeah, they did lose a bit of an identity. So at least with Nuno, that he's bringing with him an identity. He's got a plan that he's going to stick to. I mean, in the time that we've been setting up for this, obviously the lineups have come out for the 3:00 game. Forest have got a big home game against Bournemouth, which if they lose, really does sort of suck them towards that bottom 3 a bit. And interestingly, it looks like he's gone with a back 4 in this first game, which I'm a little bit surprised by. The only one that some Mangala's in there currently. A lot of the apps are putting him as a centre mid. He could be a centre back to make it a back 3, but it kind of looks like a 4-2-3-1 on paper, or maybe even a 4-4-2. Origi and Wood. It just depends whether he's sort of playing Origi slightly deeper, but you could see it as like a 5-3-2, which is a very Mourinho setup with sort of Gibbs White and Elanga trying to break away, and then Origi and Wood just pressing high on the Bournemouth defence. We'll have to wait and see. We'll find out in about 20 minutes or so. Gibbs White, obviously for me personally, is a guy I've stuck with in draft all season. And I guess the rumours that Nuno didn't really rate him, but I've heard conflicting things because others are saying it was more of a ownership decision to loan him out and things. And he was obviously very, very young during that. I think he was literally like 17, 18 coming through. But I guess in hindsight, it does look... Does it look bad business for Wolves? I mean, they got very good money for him. What was it, 40-odd million?
Bad business, no.
Not bad. But I mean, obviously, last season was a very good FPL season for Gibbs White. I still rate him highly, but the returns just haven't really been there so far. 1 goal and 4 assists is probably half what I would have been hoping for at this stage in the season. Hoping he'd be the main man. So we'll see. I think it's either going to go one way or the other with him over the next few weeks. But it'd be interesting to see if the likes of Origi or Wood get a run in, if he's going to play that kind of system.
Yeah.
Obviously, Awaniwi's injured again long term. He's not going to be there for a while, so we don't need to worry about him. But yeah, and then Elanga, Hudson-Odoi, how he fits all those guys in, and whether he does play with a straight back 5.
Yeah, so I like it's not a bad business. I I think the way that football is going, I'm quite frustrated about the way that sort of like those sort of young players are treated. It's something that happens at Chelsea a lot now, because of the way that you could balance the books. Pure profit is the word that's used a lot. It's really frustrating. It's just like all the homegrown players at every club, every fan wants playing for their team are seen as this special I don't know, whatever, golden player that can get them 50 billion that they can just wipe off all their stupid signings that they've made, which Wolves have done too. And I think that's why they lost, I don't know how perfectly to say his name, Luke Penn, like their most recent manager. They lost him because they couldn't.
Oh, Lopetegui.
Yeah, they couldn't buy any more players anymore because they made too many stupid signings previously. So yeah, so it's not bad business, but I do feel like he could have given Gibbs White more of a run in the team. He saw him more as a 6 at the time, but that was more due to the formation that they kind of played. Maybe you didn't really see him fitting into those sort of like further forward positions. It'll be interesting to see how this all sorts of lines up today. It does look like a 4-4-2. What I do think is that those that have Wood enjoy it, but you might need to move him on pretty quickly because I don't think he looked Premier League quality anymore when Newcastle signed him. And I find it very strange that Forest signed him. And he just he doesn't look that. He's nice, someone to throw on when you're chasing a game and you're lobbing it to the box, but I don't think he has that quality anymore. Is what I'd say about him. Gibbs White, you just assume that, given that he's one of Forest's best players, he just has to play. And Nuno's going to have to figure out a way where he plays split strikers with him in behind, or I don't know, plays him as the striker for a bit, or what? Because I don't know if Gibbs White can play in those 6 positions that Nuno likes anymore. If he does,
he's definitely not a 6.
Yeah, if he does, your value's just completely dropped. So yeah, Langa's been playing really well so far this season. Hudson-Odoi has had some good moments, but he's injured a lot. So I have a feeling with Forest, we're just going to see a lot more people come in during January. Maybe a winger, maybe a striker. The defenders, not so much because they've got so many. And that is going to be really hard to decipher because if we go back to Nuno's original 5 at the back formation, you're probably looking at Ori is good for the wing back position. So is Nico Williams.
I think Williams is starting today. Actually,
yeah, he is. Aina is probably good as playing like a right centre back or a left centre back position. Tavares they've got, and you'd think that he's tailor made for a wing back position. So they've got a few players there, but it just depends who gets a run in the team. And I've found actually, I know I've gone on a bit here. I found actually this is the first season I found that it's so hard to predict lineups across the board for defenders, especially for any club. Like you've got Luton, they'll play a defender for 4 weeks and then just randomly rest them for 3. Burnley doing the same. They're just trying to find the group that clicks and it starts working. But it's been the same for Forest. There's Murillo that's been playing, but then alongside him, Toffler played a good few weeks, but he didn't play before that. I guess there was betting stuff as well.
I guess Willy Bolly was he at Wolves when
he was.
Nuno was there before?
Yeah.
So he's probably one.
You'd think. Yeah,
he'd rely on. He's starting today. I think he probably is one of their best centre backs. I mean, he's better than Niakate, Worrell, Philippe, Bamadelli. Trying to think who the other ones are. Yeah,
Philippe
Murillo, McKenna.
I always forget about. Oh yeah, sorry.
McKenna.
I also just forgot about Montiel, who's Argentina right back, who I actually think's pretty good football and can't get to the team.
Yeah, he's fine. Yeah.
So they have Chiarte, who could sometimes play centre.
Then on the other side, say you got Aina, Toffolo, Tavares can all play on that side. I mean, I think there's if there's a set 11 with Awoniyi up front, that's a top half. There is a top half team in there. But Awoniyi is a massive miss because, say, the drop off from him down to like Wood and Origi just completely changes the way, because neither of them have mobility like Awoniyi does. So it just completely changes the way. Interesting that he's gone with Wood and Origi today. Yeah, I guess we'll have to see how they line up properly. But
giving them both a chance to impress. Who have they got up next? Maybe it's like a little bit of an audition. No, Man United.
They've got a hard little run actually. They're away at Newcastle, and then Man U,
then Brentford away, then Arsenal at home. Yeah, it's not great.
No, it's a tricky run. It's the sort of run actually where often, if manager is due to get sacked, they play out a couple more. Just get Newcastle away and United at home done and dusted, and then sack him.
Yeah, I've seen.
But I suppose Bournemouth at home is worth trying for, I guess, for a little new manager bounce.
Yeah, I think they were just like this. The article I was reading was that rumors were leaked to the papers specifically about Cooper, and so they've been wanting to get rid of this guy for a while. Like, I think was it Fulham game maybe? There was an owner badge from the stadium found in like hedges outside, and now I can only think of that and think it was a planted story because they just wanted to get rid of it. Like, the owner's so disgusted with the performance, so yeah, they just wanted to get rid of him. So
I think because there's rumours obviously that Cooper goes to Palace soon, which I think would be perfect.
Yeah.
It's a smaller squad. And the business side is the complete opposite to Forest. As whereas Forest just have a complete scattergun approach, Palace will try. Well, firstly, they're happy to bring through the youth, and when they do make a purchase, they will actually identify an area of need and try and buy someone with some quality rather than just signing a whole shed load of players.
Yep.
It is a much smaller squad, and there are enough quality players in there that I think he could really, just put them on the front foot a little bit more, because we all know what we're getting under Hodgson. Palace know what they're getting under Hodgson. It's fine. It's been a stopgap. I don't think it should have ever have come this far. I feel like if you couldn't have found a single manager out there to try and take you forward to the point that you went back to Hodgson, there's a problem with your hiring team. But yeah, I can't see a way beyond Cooper going into Palace there. I think it makes too much sense. Whether Hodgson just kind of steps down soonish or whether they just play out to the end of the year, I don't know. I feel like he does need to just go and put his feet up now. He's got to be due a rest.
He was the oldest ever manager in the Prem about 4 years. So ever. So I think, you're absolutely right. It makes too much sense. I don't think Vieira should have got a sack. I think he wasn't great. There were always some mistakes, but he was on a absolutely horrible run of fixtures, and then they sacked him, and then it was like excellent fixtures, and Hodgson just looked great. They really didn't want to keep him in the summer, but they felt like they didn't have anyone that they wanted. They wanted to avoid another Frank de Boer situation where they sack a manager after 4 games. So yeah, I do think Steve Cooper is the right manager. And I'm going ahead of myself a little bit, but there might be a big job coming in the summer. And as he has managed the England under-21 previously, I wonder if he would get a look into that. So that is the only other job, and that is a big job to wait around for. So Crystal Palace will be.
I'd be shocked if a little quiet conversation in a corridor hasn't happened at some point.
Yeah.
Or a little cheeky text or something about, maybe we meet up in the new year, Steve, and just chat about your future. He's probably had 5 of those texts over the last week.
I was about to say, Palace will want to lock him down because he's, like you said, he's perfect. Because Hodgson, it's just, it really just feels like a reversal given it wasn't last season. they were still playing a really interesting brand of football. But this season it's just been pure Hodgson football, and it is quite upsetting. It's just Elise and Eze just hoping one of them is fit enough and therefore able to do something unbelievable to save them. Crystal Palace were trying to move Hodgson on like now, to try and lock him in. But I think Cooper might wait till summer. Like that'll be the move for him.
Well, seeing as this is probably the longest conversation I've ever had on Nottingham Forest, let's move on now to another big job that currently does have a bum in the seat, and that is the Man United job. Because I cannot see that situation carrying on for much longer. I know there's a bit of, there's a bit of a changeover going on behind the scenes in terms of management and things. I don't really have a clue where that's up to at the moment, but it's just not working. I don't really see it changing now. He's had, and similar to like you mentioned, Vieira. I think owners and sort of chairman now, there are enough examples. Emery at Villa, Eddie Howe at Newcastle, Postecoglou at Spurs, where you can go, well, they didn't need that long to put their imprint on the team and actually start to get some success. So if you've had a season, if you've had best part of a season or more, that's not an excuse anymore. And I think, I just don't see. The mood is just as it's been for the last 10 years or so. We've had a few little ups, but it's generally pretty somber whenever United are discussed. And
smiling a bit too much during this segment, Mitch.
Yeah. But I mean, we were talking just before we pressed record about, West Ham was sort of double your money odds before kickoff today, which I was seriously tempted by. But when should United be travelling to West Ham and be that big an underdog? Even when they're playing bad, the bookies would normally favour them for close to a result or back a draw there, but they were firm underdogs today. In my head, sorry, not in the bookies' heads. They were firm underdogs in my head. I saw no chance of them getting a result. And obviously there's been the Sancho situation, so he's to one side. Greenwood's obviously over in Spain. Other than that, attacking wise, they're pretty much at full strength. They've got all the options available, I think. Unless, correct me if I'm forgetting someone. Eriksen, is he injured?
Eriksen's just come back today after a few months out.
Yeah. Defensively, obviously, there are some holes there, but I don't have any idea what their brand of football is, what he's trying to do. I have absolutely no clue, and it's not good to watch. They've done all right results-wise. They're currently sat in 8th now after that result. I think if another couple of losses between now and the end of January, I think he's gone.
Yeah, I think they were saying the stat during the game. United, I know they played Champions League and that's where they had a real tough time, but it's like more losses this season in all competitions than wins, which is not a good look. I agree with you. I think De Zerbi's, I don't think you mentioned him as well. He's another person to add to the list where they've just got it right much quicker. I do have some sympathy. I do agree with that and have been saying for like 4 or 5 months about the brand of football and how he should have already got them playing better than this. But their team is properly rubbish. What they do each time is, we know what can solve this. We're going to go and spend 70 million on something that's going to patch over the holes. The original one I can think of is Fernandes, who was like, just came in and started like sorting things out and was just so good that it made everyone else look better. Casemiro's last season's example. They were rubbish, and it's just like, yeah, let's spend 60 million, stupid amount of wages, and let's just solve this problem with a patch. And Anthony, they attempted, but it didn't work. So I think that there was an article that came out for of The Athletic yesterday, just very damning in terms of like the valuations that were put on internally on certain players. 25 million for Anthony, and they ended up spending like I think it was like 75 or 90, up to 90. So they're just scouting department, not scouting, but the decision makers just spend the most ludicrous amounts of money. And I then feel a little bit for Ten Hag because like he's not getting the players in that he needs to play the way he wants to play. But it shouldn't all just be on transfers. You should be able to coach some players. And I do see some changes for like, I do think Wan-Bissaka has got better under Ten Hag than ever did under Solskjaer. That's one example I can give. Like no one seems better than they were when Solskjaer was there. That's not good enough. So yeah, I really do think it's tough for him. I don't really get the Potter things. I don't think he was like. I know Chelsea is like a pretty mad place to be at the moment. I don't know if he United, given their patch thing that I just talked about, they are not going to be looking for someone that's like a 3-year is going to be shit for a long while, like Potter will be. I don't see him, but like I don't know, float enough money by De Zerbi and Brighton or Emery. Maybe they'll get managers like that. But yeah, there's a lot that needs to change at United. And even if the change does come, I don't know if we need to value any of their players to pick up. Fernandes, yes, maybe. Like that's a good player. But like we talked just before about Sancho, because like we have a big league, so you have to think about these like really offhand players that might score some points and getting them in early. But you just can't see a new manager coming in, then picking Sancho then being amazing enough for you to be thinking about picking him up. I think it's a no-go at the moment. Just stay clear, as clear as you can.
Yeah, I mean, obviously people will have a Nana just because you need the starting keepers. I think Bruno Fernandes, I mean, his value has dropped off massively since pre-season. I mean, he's playing like a third, fourth mid at the moment. He's certainly not a first or second. And then McSauce has come in and has more or less got the same number of FPL points as Fernandes now from a couple of, monster weeks. And then it's just way down the list. You've got the dregs of everyone else. Rashford's on 48 points, 2 goals, 2 assists from the season so far. Benched again. I think is that 4th game in a row now. He's been dropped, and there is no injury concern, is there? He's definitely been dropped. But then Garnacho, is he that much better? I don't think so. I know he scored that wonder goal the other week, but like I said in the pod, I think the week after, doesn't matter how you score them, they're worth the same amount of FPL points to me. But I don't think he's kind of just doesn't even do much backtrack. At least Anthony runs back now and again.
Yeah, I feel bad for Højlund as well.
It's
like
a mess.
he looks pretty good, like from some of the Champions League performances. But like again, the stats coming out of how little Garnacho and Anthony have been passing to him. It's like 2 passes over like 5 games. So he's just not getting any service. So that
and like you were saying about trying to call defenders, you have no idea who's going to start in defence week to week. Even when they do have a few fit options, it seems a bit random. Johnny Evans just randomly comes in and
1 week Luke Shaw's playing centre back, 1 week he's not. 1 week AWB's playing, 1 week Dalot. So it's just it's not worth it. Højlund is the like now talking about it, is like you could imagine if there's a new manager, maybe they'd instruct the wingers and other midfielders to get the ball into him more often, and there might be some upside there. Other than that, leave them alone. Man United done. You want to talk about Spurs? How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, what do you want me to talk about Spurs? Well,
they were in the title race a few weeks ago, but now where do
we still are in the title race.
Where do you see expectations? Any players that you think like because obviously you've got a few players going off to the African Cup of Nations. You've got Asia Cup as well. Any murmurings of signings?
Yeah, I think we'll definitely get a centre back in January. I'm not quite sure whether the priorities are left-sided or a right-sided. I feel like they're actually going to prioritise a right-sided centre back to cover Romero, because Dyer's not really in the conversation. Whereas I think they're, for now, I mean, longer term, I think in the summer a left-sided one will also come in. But I think for now they're quite happy with Davies covering Van de Ven. He's fine, he does a very okay job to come in when he needs to. So, I think a right-sided centre back will be coming in. There's loads of names, to be honest, I've not really heard of from European leagues. I'm sure they're going to be quick. That's going to be one of the baseline characteristics, attributes that they need. Otherwise, I don't think there's going to be... I think unless they really push or improve the 11, I don't think we're necessarily going to sign squad players in January. But I've got no clue what their plans are. I mean, obviously the good thing is, and I've mentioned it on some of the fixture chat on the pods, the sort of fixtures moving forwards, whilst we've got a little congested period now, in January, I think most clubs only play 2 games before it gets into February. There's a 2-week winter break. One of the weeks is for the FA Cup third round. So I don't know if it's just sellotape the squad together until the end of the transfer window, hopefully get Van de Ven fit, hopefully get Maddison fit, the boys come back from the African Cup, and then just push on towards the end. That's what I assume they're going to do, rather than just try and buy their way out of trouble. But yeah, it's a funny situation, because I think the mood's really good. Everyone's really happy with the style, and you can see, like, if that's a first 11 playing 100% capacity, that is going to blow any team away on a day. But then you just get Basuma doing stupid shit, and now he's banned. The doggies, I think we're highest yellow cards in the league, so obviously we've had, and we continue, like, Udoggi's banned today for his 5 yellows. Everyone's, Romero obviously, and what I forgot is, the red cards stack. So if if Basuma gets another red card, I think it's like a 6-game ban or something silly, because it would be like his third of the season, which, when the team has been playing well, Basuma's been playing really well in the middle, and he's just been making everything work. So losing him is a big miss. But yeah, I don't, like you were saying with these clubs that sell their youth and see them as just like complete 100% free value. It would be nice to get back to that a little bit of Spurs. I mean, the joke was that we'd churn out an average midfielder every season, that would end up playing for Hull. But even that's dried up. Skip is pretty much the last player that came through, and he's been about for 4 years now, maybe 3 or 4 years. Otherwise, the progression from our academy has been virtually non-existent. So it'd be nice to get a few academy players brought through too. And then ultimately, we need a new Son. That's not to replace Son, but a Son cover. So somebody that can play left wing and centre forward. Because Richarlison...
Yeah, him.
I don't think he's going to be long lasting for Spurs, personally. I could easily see him getting sold in the summer.
I don't know who's going to
So I think we'll get
money.
I don't think anyone will pay that money, but I think someone will come in and pay acceptable money, and we might just go, you've not quite worked out as we wanted to. Thanks, good luck, and put the money elsewhere. But I don't think that will happen in January. It'd be lovely if it did, but I don't think it will, because those guys don't really grow on trees.
Yeah,
I think Lo Celso could get sold.
Yeah, none of the Spurs managers have ever really fancied him, so I think like he could go. You'd think that Dyer's gonna go. I think like there is, as much as everyone like sort of bats away these sort of things, I think there is an outside chance that he could go with the England squad because he's gone before. So if he goes to another club, run of clean sheets, there's an outside chance. So I think he will have these sort of thoughts in his head, and it isn't just not working for him at Spurs. So he'll want to get out. Højbjerg potentially the same. Wants to get out because he'll probably get into the squad anyway. But still, he'll want to go somewhere where he plays a few more regular minutes. That is a position I think most. I think centre back you need. I'd be surprised if you don't sign a centre midfielder. I get your point of like, don't just buy a squad player, buy someone that's going to better your team. But if Basuma is constantly getting sent off, or you get an injury, Højbjerg or Skip really change the way that you play your football. So that really seemed like a priority position that they could look to strengthen.
Højbjerg's actually been better than I thought he would be coming in. But yeah, he's not up to it. I'm going to just say on a side note, literally this second, Richarlison has just scored for Spurs. But I mean, it's against Everton, right? It's against his old club, so that's the type of game where he's going to turn up and score 4. You know what I mean? And then just disappear for 2 months. But yeah, I thought I would just mention that as it literally popped up right that second. But yeah, the thing with Højbjerg is, he's completely not right for Postecoglou. But he's still a very fine. Like if you saw him rolling out for a European team on a Champions League night, he's going to be fine. He's not going to cost you the game. He's going to leg it and he's going to put himself about, and he does what he does. But which for Conte, Mourinho, Nuno, etc. A very fine, safe pair of hands in the middle. But I think Postecoglou expects a little bit more, which is a shame that Lo Celso can't work out. But he's just not robust enough to play Premier League football at the end of the day. Like he plays 2, he's injured for 4, plays 1, injured for 5. He's always just getting these little scrapes. You see these little fleeting moments of brilliance from him, little tiki-taka and stuff that he can do. But yeah, I just don't think he's quite built. He needs to just go and enjoy a nice summertime league, really. There's been apparently interest in Barcelona signing him. He could end up looking great for them. He really could.
If they can afford him.
If they can afford him, yeah.
17th lever. I think that's it. That summarizes like Spurs. I think they need to sign a centre back. So I don't think Romero's minutes going to get impacted. Even if they sign a right side centre back, I think it's Davies that's going to lose his place, and they'll just start getting this player in centre midfielder. But otherwise, pretty much as you were. Richarlison,
and like Brennan Johnson, just let him, develop a bit and get settled in. I mean, is he 20? I think he's 20 years old. So, it's obviously a big step up. So just let him do what he's going to do. He's been all right, but then next season, hopefully, he can hit the ground running and maybe get a bit more of a start. I mean, Kulusevski, how have we not mentioned him? He's definitely someone I've got my eye on trying to make a trade for, because as well as the performances, he's just starting to, it's something I can show on the video format, not the audio format, but he's just starting to become that guy. He's starting to, his chest puffing out, and he's almost just taking on teams and being like, I'm just going to run around you. I'm the one that the play's going to go through, try and take the ball off me. He's kind of got that big dog mentality that not many Spurs players have had in the last few years, because everyone's just let Kane do it. But I've been really impressed with him. Because he's been coming inside. He's been playing as like a number 8/10.
Yeah, he's kind of
more
covered
of a 10
Madison's position.
Sort of.
And like you said, like sometimes this happens. Like I remember this happened when like Henry left as well. Like some of the other players, like they stopped looking to that sort of dog. And it's like, no, we need to do this. And I think you got a few players in the front, Son, Kulusevski, and Madison, that are going to be trying to to do that. I don't think Richarlison is quite, I'll say, neither Brennan Johnson, but those three look really.
Funnily enough, I was just going to say, Brennan Johnson set up the goal. Okay, well, that's enough for that ramble. For those who haven't picked up from the podcast and those that haven't already signed up at draftfc.co.uk, if you sign up and use the code DraftFCPod, and what I might do is try and flash that up on the screen now in true professional YouTube ways, then you get a 1 month free trial, and you get full, complete access with no obligation to stay on signed up. I won't go through all of the features now for time, but if you are serious about your official FPL draft team and want to try and get a leg up in your league, there should be at least one or two things that we've got to offer that you won't be able to find anywhere else, and that should hopefully see some improvement in your ranks and your league position. So I'm not really going to sell it more than that, other than go check it out for a free sign up, and I'm sure you won't be disappointed. Otherwise, game week preview will be out on the audio as usual, probably tonight, maybe tomorrow morning at the latest, ahead of the waiver window on Christmas morning, as is tradition in official draft FPL ahead of the Boxing Day fixtures. For those of you who don't listen to that, and this is the last of us at Draft FC you see before Christmas, I hope you have a Merry Christmas and a good New Year, and I'm sure Kiran echo the same. Thanks for checking us out. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already, and keep an eye out for the new podcast. And as always, stay shook.